Hey guys, Brian Stevens here, the National Real Estate Post. I have Johnny Fowler with Hancock Mortgage. Guys, today's show is going to be a little different. We're going to be doing an interview with Johnny about the floods down in Houston that everybody's been looking at, that we all collectively as a nation can't take our eyes off of. And it's because of the problems and the magnitude of this storm. And there's going to be consequences from this storm that are going to last for years and years. One of them, very obviously and upfront, is the mortgage industry. As I started doing research for a Houston show, I started looking at 80% of the people in Houston don't have flood insurance. It's not because they're irresponsible. It's because nobody has a plan for a 1,000-year flood, which is exactly what Houston saw. We're looking at possible buybacks. We're looking at when can these houses get fixed. There's a number of different issues that I wanted to talk to Johnny about because he's based down in Houston, Texas. And, of course, he's an expert in the mortgage industry. So, Johnny, how are you doing today? Are you doing okay?
I'm doing good. I fared much luckier than a lot of my friends, colleagues, fellow Houstonians, and it's not just Houston. Just to give you an idea of this, so where the eye hit from Houston is about 3 hours south of here in Rockport. So you go another hour down to Corpus, which is about let's say 220 miles. It stretches. Probably a total, if you went linear, probably a total of 650 miles across the coast of Texas. But me, myself, personally, I don't know how, knock on wood, thank God, I got lucky. I was flooded in my neighborhood. The streets were about 3.5 foot deep. Was not able to move for about 3 days. Once I could get out of my neighborhood, I could go about 6 blocks, but I personally got lucky compared to so many other people, and it'll be weeks before we ever know anything about everybody. I mean, we're still this morning when I was trying to get to the office, we were, the streets that I normally take. So I know, if anybody knows the Houston area, I normally take Beltway 8 South going to 59. Beltway 8 South was 20 feet underwater. So from where my tires sit, it was 20 foot over my head, theoretically, on the road that I travel every single day.
You were just saying real quickly before we get into the loan stuff, just a moment ago about the trillions of gallons. Can you explain that to really give people an idea of the magnitude of the storm?
Yeah, what they've told us, and I tell you what, our officials that have been here have done such a bang-up job. Our mayor, our sheriff, our police chief, these Army Corps engineers, they have done such an incredible job here, plus the freaking volunteers. We have people come from Louisiana here to save our life. People come from Dallas, all over this. There's people coming from Ohio, Michigan, all over the country. But, yeah, so we were told, I believe it was Saturday night or Sunday morning, that we had gotten 650 billion gallons of water by that time. So it came in Friday afternoon, and by Saturday night or Sunday, 650 billion gallons of water. What we were being told as of this morning on the news, actually, let me go back one day. So on Sunday night, Monday, we were told that we had gotten 9 trillion gallons of water. What they showed us was if you took a fish tank that was 2 miles long, 2 miles wide, and 2 miles deep, that fish tank would be full. That's what 9 trillion gallons look like. As of this morning, they told us that we're sitting somewhere in the 14 to 15 trillion gallons of water since Friday afternoon, and today's Wednesday. So it's an unfathomable number to me to try and understand how much water that is. They're also telling us that this is the worst recorded storm, worst recorded flood in recorded history.
Yeah, this is very much a disaster. It's not a disaster that happened. This is very much a disaster that's happening before your eyes. It's going to take years and years to really get out from underneath this. So a couple of things I wanted to talk to you about is, first of all, 80% of Houstonians do not have flood insurance. Again, it's because flood insurance is not required because nobody expects this type of flood. As a lender, and by the way, of all the regions around the country, Houston might have more lenders than any area in the country. It's the 4th largest city in the country, And I can personally, off the top of my head, name 5 or 6 lenders who are headquartered down there. So as a lender, what type of problems does this create for you in terms of buybacks? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so we're not sure, and I think it'll be just to go back. So you understand? You said 80% of Houstonians don't have flood insurance. That's an accurate number. Everything I've seen on the news is an accurate number. Houston is 80 feet above sea level. There are almost no flood zones, theoretically where we're at. So my wife is somewhat paranoid, so we have flood insurance. We have every kind of insurance you could ever think of. But no, 80% of Houstonians do not have flood insurance. Now, going back to what you're saying, buybacks and what's going on with the mortgage industry. So here I am. I've got tens of millions of dollars on a warehouse line, hundreds of millions of dollars on a warehouse line, and I've got loans all over South Texas. So the lucky ones that I get are the ones that I just have to go out and do an inspection on, where they let me self-inspect, send pictures that the property's still there, that there's no damage, things like that. We went through that last year for the IRS flood and for the Memorial Day flood, so that's not a big deal. The ones where I'm not so lucky, so let's say we funded a house, and I don't know if this is possible, true, or if it's happened or not, but the house is gone. Obviously, that's now mine. It's not a sellable loan. The property's not there. If the property's flooded, it's mine. So that's what you as a company, that's what we as a company have to start figuring out and deciding what we're going to do if you have a tremendous amount of loans on dwellings that no longer exist, if there is no collateral. If the collateral is there, how long does it take? If you look, we're the 3rd, 4th largest city in the country. There's only so many contractors and so many supplies, even though they're bringing them in, constantly. If you look on any of the maps, they'll show you there's Home Depot, Lowe's trucks, Ace Hardware trucks sitting all over around Houston, waiting to bring supplies in. But it's still raining. It's still here. We don't have that yet. So you're going to end up with properties that are destroyed. You're going to end up with properties that are damaged. And I thank God we are who we are, that we're as cash flowing and cash rich as we are, to be able to handle this and to be able to do this. But there's a lot of companies out there that are very small companies that don't have the means. This is going to hurt a lot of companies. And when it hurts a company, it hurts an area, it hurts a loan officer, it hurts a processor, it hurts, closers, funders. And there's a lot that's going to happen. And you're right. I can't throw a rock without hitting some of the greatest mortgage companies there are in this country. Envoy Mortgage right down the street from me, NRL Mortgage right down the street from me, Interlink right down the street from me, Network Funding right down the street from me, not to mention the small ones, the ones that are the mom and pops, the ones that are in the outlying areas. That's everything that this family has ever done and put together. So, I'm not asking people to feel sorry for the mortgage companies, but it's something that it's real. It's happening. And it's going to continue to happen for quite some time. So,
in the event that you have loans that you have to eat, I mean, it's very plausible to say that this could bury some mortgage companies down there if their footprint is too large in the Houston area. They just have too many loans that have been hit.
People in Texas are pretty damn resilient. I would venture to guess that it could ruin some. If I was a betting man, by the way, I forgot to bet on the damn fight last weekend. If I was a betting man, I would not bet that it's going to take any of these guys out, any of the guys that are in the same boat as I am. But I do think it's going to hurt some of the smaller guys. I do think it's going to hurt some of the brokers. I do think it's going to hurt some of the small to medium size mom and pop bankers. But I don't think I can let it come out of my mouth to think that anybody's going to get shut down over this.
Now, if you have a forbearance on your payment for 3 or 4 months for some of these smaller companies, that right there could trigger a buyback. So you don't even have to have a foreclosure. If you just have a missed payment due to a forbearance that's actually put in place at a federal level, that could create a buyback that could make it very difficult for a smaller company to keep its doors open. If you had
very much so, very much so. Then what do you do? Do you sell it on the secondary market for 50%? Do you hold on to it? You know, every single one of these, and it's multiplied. You know, 1 is hard enough. 2 is even harder. 10 of them, 20, 40, 60 of them, hundreds of them become very difficult. But I think with it being as catastrophic as it is, I would think, and I don't know this for a fact, but I would think that any of the warehouse lenders out there would have the business sense not to damage any companies that have helped and been helping.
And I want to clarify that for people who don't understand exactly what Johnny's saying. When you have a mortgage company and warehouse lines, they're essentially the golden goose. They're the ones who are originating, putting these deals together, and then selling them off. If they, in turn, were to force a company to buy back enough loans that could then put them out of business, they're basically killing off their customer. So the idea is, for a smart company, would not require these mortgage companies to buy these loans back, even if they had the authority to do so, because they want to keep their customer base for future loans. And keep in mind, these companies down in Houston are not only writing loans in Houston or the state of Texas. For instance, how many states is Hancock Mortgage in right now?
We're licensed in 45 states. I've got locations in 40 states.
Okay, so what we're talking about now is a company who's writing loans in 40 other states or 39 other states, meaning they're still going to be able to bring business in, even if the Houston market is depressed temporarily. So you've got a lot of stuff to look at right now, and I'm assuming at this point you made it to your office today. How are things looking? Are you still funding loans? Is everything, are you open for business?
We never stopped. I've got the greatest damn crew I've ever seen in my life. I tell you what, I'm getting goosebumps right now. My underwriters, my closers, funders, shippers never stopped. They were working this weekend trying to stay ahead of the game. When one would lose power or lose internet, the other 3 would take over, whatever that was. We have not missed one single freaking day of funding loans, of keeping people in. We haven't missed any closings to date. I am so proud of our people. I can't tell you, you know, how proud I am. So yes, to answer your question, yeah, we're still funding loans. We're still closing loans. We're still originating loans. Not some bullshit water thing like this is going to stop us.
And I'll tell you what, if you really, to understand that is these are people who are working in Houston whose houses could be in jeopardy, they've got friends and family who live down in Houston whose houses are in jeopardy, and yet they're still showing up to work to close loans, which is a really, really remarkable thing. And I happen to know Hancock. I happen to know Johnny personally. These guys they're the best people you're ever going to find in your life. And I mean that sincerely, and Johnny knows that. So as a real estate agent out there right now in any one of our states across the country, you might want to speak with your lender and find out if this is going to create some hiccups for them. Because even though you might be working in Idaho, that loan could be processed, underwritten, and funded from Houston, Texas. Again, word to the wise to stay ahead of the game. Check out and talk with your lenders to make sure that you're not going to have any hiccups on your deal. Johnny, stay safe, brother. I love you. Love you guys down there. And we will certainly be talking soon.
Love you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Awesome.